Hello, and welcome to the Empowerography Podcast. This is a platform created for women's voices to be heard and a place to share their stories, journeys, and successes with the world for the purpose of helping other women who might be on similar journeys. We are empowering women one episode at a time. I'm your host, Brad Walsh, so kick back, grab one of your favorite beverages, and enjoy the stories. You've got a story to share, a message to inspire, and a passion ready to ignite. But where do you start? The world is waiting for your voice. With From Idea to Implementation, Start Your Own Podcast, you'll get the roadmap to turn your vision into reality. This isn't just a course, it's your launching pad. Step by step, we'll break down the process from defining your purpose to recording your first episode so you can finally share your voice with confidence. Stop overthinking it and start doing it. Your voice has the power to connect and lead. Are you ready to use it? Join the waitlist today. Your podcast journey starts now. The world is waiting. You can find the link to sign up for the waitlist in the show notes. We'll see you soon. Hello there, Brad Walsh here, your host of the Empowerography Podcast, a platform created to help elevate and amplify the voices of women through sharing their stories. Today, my guest is Noemi Beres. She is a seasoned entrepreneur, the co-owner of Podcast Connections, a leading booking agency dedicated to empowering entrepreneurs and business owners. Welcome, Noemi. How are you?
Thank you so much, Brad. I'm very well, thank you.
Excellent. Glad to hear it. I'm so happy to have you here and so excited to jump in. Thank you for taking and making the time to be here with me today. Let's jump right in. So, first off, how long ago did you start up Podcast Connections, and what was the inspiration behind starting the podcast booking agency?
Yes, it started in 2020. And there was no inspiration behind it at all.
All right.
I always share that to people. I became an entrepreneur in 2007, and we had an online travel-related business up till 2020. But because of the pandemic, basically everything that was travel-related stopped from one day to another. And we had to figure out, to make a living. And luckily, we had a mentor, an Irish gentleman, and he started a course, or how should I put it, like a mentorship program for how to be a paid podcast booking agent. And we jumped on that wagon, and we just became podcast booking agents from one day to another in 2020. And there was no real inspiration behind it other than that, you have to make a living. But I figured that this is a great job, and I enjoyed it even more than I did before between 2007 and 2020.
And so what drives, motivates, and inspires you to keep going and excelling at all that you do?
I love helping people, and I love enriching people's lives through connections. And I found this out in 2020 that I love doing this. And this is so great to be someone who connects people across the world. And it's an amazing feeling.
A lot of people found their calling in 2020.
Yes, we all did.
And it was a horrible time, but it was also an amazing time because it gave people time to reflect and figure out what it is that lights them up and what excites them.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. We went through a lot, and it wasn't like rainbows and butterflies, and it was hard, but we found a new business model. We started something from scratch, and we reached 7-figure last year. So it worked well.
Wow. Congratulations. Amazing. Noemi, can you speak a little bit about what you were doing for a living before you made the jump into entrepreneurship, and what was the catalyst for that shift?
I became an entrepreneur at a pretty young age. When I have a master's degree in Scandinavian linguistics, I speak Danish and Swedish. And I didn't really find any job with that qualification in Hungary back in the early 2000 years. So we ended up living and working in Ireland for 7 years. And I worked in a call center with my fresh university degree, master's degree, but I knew that's not my calling. And they had leadership problems at that company anyway, so I didn't like that part. Plus, I'm a Scorpio. I don't like to have a boss. And so I made up my mind in 2007, and I told my husband, I don't want to work in this call center anymore. I want to become an entrepreneur. And I didn't know anything about it. Probably I was the first entrepreneur in my family, I think. And that was it. I never looked back. I have that kind of entrepreneur spirit in my veins, I guess, or in my blood that I needed.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I want to talk about the agency and podcasting in general and stuff. What were some of the challenges that you faced early on in building the agency, and how did you overcome those challenges?
If you're an entrepreneur, you always have challenges. There's no business without challenges. Like everyone else, we struggled. I wouldn't say it was a huge struggle, but we struggled to get the first clients on board. Because if you are not in that business, like nobody knows you, you don't have any experience, you learn as you go. So you really have to convince people to that I'm the right person for you, who can find you the best podcast in the world. So that wasn't an easy ride. And we started to work first with only female entrepreneurs in the e-commerce niche. And that was really interesting. And I think because I'm a woman, they were women too. So we understood each other better. And because they still don't really have a big voice in the entrepreneur world, especially in the e-com world, it's a male dominant world. Maybe it was just easier for them to trust me with my knowledge. And so we jumped that hurdle too at the beginning.
Yeah. So what is it that lights you up and inspires you the most about the work you do with Podcast Connections?
I love serving people. I love helping people. I'm a member of Bob Berg's, shout out to Bob Berg. He's my friend and mentor, and his Go-Giver community. So I'm truly, deeply in my heart, a Go-Giver, and I'm here for people and help them and get their voice out and make them count. And because there's so many amazing and inspiring stories out there. So many people, they don't want to share those stories, but they need to, because it's important to hear them and learn from them. So that's my thing. That's my gem.
There's no better feeling than being in and of service to another human being. I think that's part of why we're all here on this planet, is to do exactly that. That's part of our duty and responsibility. And the whole storytelling thing and the amount of people that don't believe or think they have a story is heartbreaking, because I think that every single person on this planet has a story, and it is your responsibility to share it, because it will help somebody, at least one person. And if we can do that, how incredible is that?
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%, Brad, and I'm on board with that. If we help just one person, that's a win.
Yeah, for sure. What's your vision for the future of your agency, and how do you plan to continue empowering entrepreneurs through the work?
Yeah, that's a great question, Brad. We realize that many people and many clients, many guests, they don't really share interviews. They don't really use the content they create when they finish a podcast interview. Just done and dusted, and okay, let's get to the next one. But content is evergreen, what you create through podcast guesting. It's so important to use that and repurpose that content. So we offer them more services that actually help them to repurpose that content. So they can help themselves, building their brand and authority, and also help the host, because you're doing an amazing job. And there are a shout out to all the amazing hosts I know out there. You invest so much money, effort, time into creating just one single episode. Those episodes should be out and should be listened and seen. And that's why we're working on to help our clients to get these episodes out and get these beautiful moments and stories out. So that's the vision, to help them more in that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people out there that don't understand what goes into creating an episode and doing just one episode. And I've had personally people that have been guests on the show and not shared the content afterwards. And I've heard other hosts that I know say the same thing. And I think to myself, this is about you. Why would you not share the content? The spotlight is on you. This was for you. It's not for me. It's to highlight you and your business. And yet some guests don't share the content at all. And what did we do this for then? What was the point of this?
Exactly.
It's crazy to me.
Yeah, I don't understand it either. It's unbelievable.
It's so how has co-founding this agency shaped your personal growth or changed the way that you view success?
For me, success isn't about achievements most of the time. I think it's about the joy of giving, creating connection between people, and also leaving that kind of gratitude, the legacy of gratitude and positivity behind when I leave Earth. And I think that's the most important.
What do you think makes a great podcast guest, and how do you help your clients become memorable guests?
For me, the best guest who is open and vulnerable, and they are happy to share their story and happy to open up. Because once you do that, that's when the magic happens. people will align with you and with your message and with your story. If you just talk about like how wonderful you are and how amazing things you did in business, nobody can align with you. And that's not even true, because that is fake. You have to take that mask off and just be pure and be just innocent when you are on the show and open up, because that's when people align with your message best.
People identify with vulnerability. It creates a sense of relatability to the audience when you're vulnerable and you share and you open up. How do you identify the right podcast for your clients to ensure alignment? You mentioned alignment with their brand and their message.
It's to learn to listen to people and learn to listen to your clients and let them speak. And because you need to, obviously you do your research, but first of all, you need to have a very deep through conversations that what's going on in their life, what's going on in their business, who is their ideal client, who is their ideal anything in business. We just need to figure out who they are and what's their goal, what's their purpose. And once we know that, we can truly find the right podcast, the right platform.
Yeah.
It's really important.
Absolutely. That's key. You can't, so many people, they jump into the podcast guesting game and they want to put themselves out there on every single podcast. And that's not the way to go about it. You have to find podcasts that are in alignment with your branding and your messaging. And that's it. Otherwise, you're wasting your time.
Absolutely. And sometimes you just don't want to associate it with podcasts that are maybe not the right for your business, because when you create evergreen content, your name will stay in Google forever. And if there is a podcast that it's a bit fishy or dodgy or whatever is going on there, you don't want to be associated with them for the next 10, 15 years.
No. And I don't think that people really think about that and realize that once you're out there, once you put yourself out there, it's out there for everybody forever. That's
correct. 100%.
So you have to be mindful about how you put yourself out there for sure. What are some common misconceptions that entrepreneurs have about being a podcast guest, and how do you address those misconceptions?
I think the most common misconception is that, okay, so I appear on a podcast or two and then I be famous. And no, this is not happening. And it never happened in business. When you just do things once or twice, you need to rinse and repeat it a couple of times. And you need to have patience, consistency, persistency in order doing that. It's the same as you go to the gym. You won't grow those muscles in 2 weeks, maybe in 2 years, but not 2 weeks. So they need to learn to be patient with themselves and need to practice podcast guesting, because it needs practice. It's so different from keynote speaking as well. And I try to explain that to many of my clients and ex-clients as well. But sometimes people just don't get it. This is a long-term marketing strategy. Nothing happens overnight. You have to do these podcast interviews at least, I would say, 5 to 6 months, at least 2 interviews per month, to get those results and to build the momentum, to build those little fires burning in business. And then it will bring you the result.
It's just like anything else. Entrepreneurship, for instance, you're not going to build a 6-figure business typically in 2 months. It's not going to happen. You have to do the work. And similarly with the podcast hosting, it's this very similar thing where people think, oh, I'll put together this podcast and I'll be the next Joe Rogan. Yeah. No, it doesn't work like that. Chances of you becoming a Joe Rogan are slim to none. I'm not saying it's impossible, but you have to put in the work. And it takes a lot of work to host a podcast.
Yes.
And people don't realize that.
So true. So true. I'm on the other side of the mic. I'm co-hosting a podcast, and this is not related to podcast guesting, but it is hard. It is hard. It's so different than just being a guest. Being a guest is just so much easier than host a podcast, because basically you're there, you share your story, you share your knowledge, and that's it. You did your part. But the rest is on the host.
For sure. For sure. How do you see the rise of AI and technology impacting the future of podcasting and guest appearances, if at all?
I think it will affect everything. Like, it's already doing its job. We use it a lot in our business. And for example, if you are a podcast guest and you're just starting out and you can't afford an agent, or you just want to start from scratch and you do it by yourself, AI can help you create amazing bios, amazing topics or talking points. So I think it's a big help for anyone in the podcasting world.
Yeah. Why do you believe that podcast guesting is such an incredibly powerful tool for entrepreneurs? What are your thoughts on that?
Because it's a great marketing strategy. It's a great long-term marketing strategy. I became an entrepreneur in 2007 when the online marketing was just so much easier to achieve anything. Just get on the first page of Google and get those SEO rankings. And it was amazing. It was easy, but not anymore. Every algorithm changed on LinkedIn, on Instagram. You can't really follow anything anymore. And once you have a platform like podcast guesting and it doesn't really connect to anything, it's not about social media and not about anything else, but once you create content, it's evergreen, you use it ever and ever again. It's just an amazing way to build brand and to build authority for the upcoming years.
And it's free.
And it's free too. Yes,
free marketing.
Yes, absolutely.
You can't beat that. And you're getting access to an audience that you normally wouldn't have access to, because you're getting access to the host's audience. You're getting that opportunity to share who you are, what you do, your brand, your business, everything. It's incredible. I think it's probably one of the best marketing tools out there.
And not many people realize that. And this is just doing it, like doing interviews. But I got that question often, that like, how does this help me on the long term? And it's, then I have my speech. Like, why is it important?
Yeah, for sure. If you could change one thing about how entrepreneurs approach podcast guesting, what would it be?
That's a brilliant question, actually. And it made me thinking that because podcast guesting is not just about transforming your business, it's about your personal growth. You can use guesting for personal growth. You learn so much when you are a guest. And I learned so much from you. You learn from me. It's mutual. And it's amazing that these connections and just helps with your self-esteem, and just brilliant. So,
your confidence,
absolutely.
Everything. It's amazing. Amazing. How do you see podcast guesting contributing to larger conversations about entrepreneurship, thought leadership, and personal branding?
It's probably the best tool that we can have. We have so many podcasts in those niches, in those fields. And I know some amazing podcast hosts, and I had those conversations with them. And it's mind-blowing how much information we can exchange during these conversations. And I truly believe that I learned more from the podcast interviews than during my university years about anything. And so it's fascinating, because it's like a new Bible on Netflix or whatever. When you watch, you learn immediately. I'm a huge fan of constant learning. I always learn. I want to learn new things. And if you're ready for that, just listen to podcast interviews, because you can learn so much about leadership, about anything basically in the world.
For sure. And again, it's free. It's free learning.
Yeah, it doesn't cost anything. Just your internet and electricity,
your time.
And time.
and your time. What is the one question you wish that people asked more often about your work or the podcasting industry?
Yes, I love that question. I was thinking about it actually a lot, because you sent me a few questions, and just to give me, I would love them to ask like how they can, it goes back again to self-improvement. Like, how can I improve myself as a person, as a business owner, not just my business, but how can I change my view of the world by being a guest? Because most of the time it's just about advertising, and so many people treat podcast guesting as promotion and free promotion. But it is not. You learn so much about yourself and about the world. So I think they should ask those questions from me more often than how many downloads and how many whatever views and how many stars, and because that's not the most important thing on the planet.
No, and people do tend to get caught up in the statistics and the metrics and all of that stuff, but that's not what it's about.
No, it's not.
Not at all. Not at all. What is the most unexpected lesson that you've learned from working with entrepreneurs and business brands? Business owners, sorry.
It's very interesting, because the more vulnerable, the more open you are and willing to share your struggles, those entrepreneurs become successful so much faster and easier. It is amazing. And I can just think about, if you think about Gary Vee's shorts or videos or anything that he shares, he talks about his struggles. He talks about when he started his business in his late 40s or something like that. So the more open, the more vulnerable you are, the more successful you become. And that was a great lesson.
Again, it's relatability. Yeah. When you share those little struggles, failures, it lets people know that, hey, I've failed too, and that's okay. You can move forward. You can take the lessons from those failures and move forward with them. It's so important. How has podcasting evolved as a platform for entrepreneurs and business owners to grow their brands?
It started, I would say, so many people started it in 2020 because of COVID, and who didn't have a podcast and was a little bit bored at home. They started a podcast because they had something to say. But those podcasts, a lot of them stopped like after 6 episodes. That was the magic number. But then those people who realized what a great opportunity is to express, is to share their stories, to share their knowledge, but also building their brand and building their authority. Those people actually are top of their games now, and they're building coaching businesses. They're building different, like other businesses in different niches that actually help them to thrive thanks to podcast guesting. So if you realize that, you are on top of the game in 2025.
Yeah, for sure. What trends are you seeing in the podcasting industry, especially in terms of guest appearances and audience engagement?
It's really interesting. It was a huge wave, and everybody started in 2020. And then it a little bit slowed down when the world opened up and many people went back to work, or they started to travel, and maybe they went back to their keynote speaking career. But it also, I can still see that this is it's a long-term strategy, and it has a future for sure, and for many years to come, because people realize that, oh my gosh, I don't have to travel 1,000 and 1,000 miles to be on a stage. I can do that from my own home office, and I can still share the same message with the world. And I think that's the power of podcast guesting, and that's why it will be around, because people realize, I don't have to do all those things. I can still stay with my family and spend quality time with them while doing these interviews. I did my interview maybe an hour, and then I go have a dinner with them. And that's so powerful. Yeah. It's just so comfortable. And also what I realized in the podcast guesting world, especially in 2024, that live interviews became more and more popular. People, it's also powerful because it's such a different vibe when you are in a show live with someone, and that energy is a bit different that we are here now. But although I think it's not a huge difference, but it still makes a difference, and it's interesting. It's like a little bit more close to television without the ads and everything.
I'm curious your thoughts though on, so with the recent election cycle in the US, now both candidates were using podcasting.
Yeah.
How do you think that has or will affect podcasting? Do you think that will cause a little explosion in the podcasting world in terms of people looking at that and seeing that, oh, this candidate used it to promote their platform, this candidate was using it? I think that will create a little bit more of a boom, I think, in the podcasting world, because seeing that.
Yeah, I think because politicians realized how much power podcasting has. And it's not just TV, it's not just radio, but podcasting has a power. And I don't think anybody gave so much power to it until they realize that now that, we can use that for politics and all these purposes. Yeah. But also it can create some division, I guess, in the world, because he was or she was on this and that podcast. I'm not listening to that anymore. So it can create a bit of mess, I guess, but we'll see what happens. But I agree with you on that, Brad, because it definitely gives a boost to the whole podcast industry.
How can business owners stand out when pitching themselves to podcasts?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's a very important one, because as far as I know, most of the podcast hosts I work with, they get like hundreds of pitches every week. And if you don't stand out, you won't get picked for that show. So whatever you do your research, listen to a few episodes before the show, get that vibe, try to connect with the host even before the interview. Maybe many podcast hosts, they have a pre-chat, a pre-call, and have a conversation with them. But before that, obviously, you have to stand out with your pitch. But then you can also ask for a friendly chat with the host and figure out what's his podcast about, what does he like. It's really important to also make your podcast pitch unique and include things like why you loved about that episode, why it was interesting for you, and try to make it short and sweet, because nobody wants to read a novel like with 2 pages about your amazing life and achievements. So try to be in that sweet spot and try to find a middle way that always works, and don't include a 45-minute interview, maybe just a clip, and just give an idea who you are, what you do, and just be polite, be nice, and try to connect with the host on a friendly way, in a friendly manner.
Yeah. The amount of pitches I get, and I get so many that I can tell right away they haven't even listened to the podcast, and they're trying to pitch their guests. I've had so many podcast agencies reach out on behalf of their clients, and they've got male guests, and they're reaching out to me. It's clearly you have not listened to the podcast, because I don't have male guests. And are you serious? Your client is paying you for this, and you're not doing your job. That's horrible.
That's horrible. That's pretty horrible. Yes, I agree.
Take the time, like you said, please take the time to listen to the podcast and make sure it's in alignment with what you're doing, your brand, everything. It's so important.
And also, before the interview, even if you get picked, listen to that interview, because then it can be a few surprises that can be very, you can get in a mess, I guess.
Absolutely. What advice would you give to entrepreneurs who are considering podcast guesting as a strategy for the very first time?
The very first time, start small. And don't shoot for Joe Rogan or Amy Porterfield. Start small and do those smaller mid-sized podcasts. And the 0.5% podcast can wait as well. And the top 2 as well, like yours. So try to go a little bit smaller and just enjoy the ride and practice, because podcast guesting needs practice too. And I think that's important. And be patient, please, because it takes time.
Great advice. Thank you for that. What is the biggest mistake that you see that entrepreneurs are making when they're preparing for podcast interviews, and how can they avoid those mistakes?
The biggest mistake is that they don't prepare. So I think that's the biggest mistake, because some people, they just, I just wing it. I can talk about anything, anytime, anywhere. And that's actually not true. And when you get a list of questions from the host, go through those questions. Really important. If they want you to get on a pre-call, get on that pre-call, because it's not about your ego. It's about getting to know each other before the interview. So I always tell that to my clients, prepare. And sometimes mistake during preparing for the show can be like if you are like really rigid, or you have very pre-written replies and it sounds really robotic or AI or something like that. And that's not professional again. Try to find your own voice. I think that's important. And if you have a story, try to condense it, because you're not there for make a monologue of 40 minutes about your life, but condense that story, that it's just easier to digest for everyone who listens. Yeah.
I know for me as a host, the pre-call, the pre-chat is very important. And if someone cannot make the time for that, then forget it. I don't want you on my show. Unless, of course, you're like an Amy Porterfield or a Sarah Blakely, someone like that, who are going to be like, no, I'm not giving you 30 minutes of my time before we do the interview, or we don't, and that's it. But primarily, if you can't make the time for me to hop on a call to see if we align energetically, then we're not going to align, and that's it. I think it's so important.
It is, indeed.
What kind of a legacy do you hope to leave through your work with entrepreneurs and podcasting?
My legacy, I think I just mentioned that for me, it was about the legacy of gratitude and just being grateful that we are on this planet and we can do these amazing things and we can share these things with people across the globe. And it doesn't matter if I'm sitting in Cyprus and you are wherever in the world, we can still make that connection. And I'm happy that I made those connections, and I help people to become friends, business partners. And I think that's really important, to connect some people that maybe they haven't ever met if they haven't met me. So I'm just gratitude for just being and creating these amazing connections.
Love it. What do you think your unique skill set or superpower is that's helped you become successful?
I can be very persistent and very consistent. I was told by the few hosts that you are very persistent. Yes, I know. That's one of my superpowers. So yes, these two qualities I think are really important.
Okay. Speaking of success, how do you define that word? What does the word success mean to you?
Success for me is about definitely joy of giving and making those connections. And it's not just about money. Of course, we would lie if we're just like, I don't need money. We all need that. But it's about giving. It's about giving and helping others.
What would you say is one of the most important things you've learned in your life? And what was your life like before you learned it? And what was your life like after learning it?
Oh, I love this question. I think this is brilliant, Brad. It's about loving myself. And before I wasn't really in love with myself. I was a miserable person. I didn't smile. I just didn't have that kind of positive vibe that I gained through that process. That love yourself first, no matter what, because you can't really help other people or love other people if you don't love yourself.
Yeah, self-love is incredibly important. What does the word empowerment mean to you? Yes,
empowerment. Empowering people to get heard and get their voice out and get their stories out and make them successful through that.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to jump into a little rapid fire section. So the next grouping of questions just be 1, 2, 3 word answer type thing. Okay. How would you describe yourself in one word?
Passionate.
If you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
My positive vibe. 3 words.
That's okay. If you could teach the world one thing, what would it be?
Listen to other people.
What is one thing you love about yourself that is not related to your physical appearance?
I like my smile, but that's physical appearance. But that also helps to ooze that positivity from your body. So I think smile. I think it's really important to smile.
Yes, absolutely. If you had a theme song that played every time you walked into a room, what would it be?
I have 2, if it's there. Okay, I was thinking about it.
Yeah, that's fine.
First of them is Chaka Khan, I'm Every Woman. That's a classic. And the other one is The Pretender by Foo Fighters.
Okay, I love it. That concludes our rapid fire section. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. I created a bonus question that I did not send you ahead of time. If other people could use 3 words to describe you, what would you want those 3 words to be?
Loving, caring, passionate.
Beautiful. What is one lesson that your career has taught you that you think everybody should learn at some point in their life?
That we need to be patient with ourselves and how we approach business. Because without patience and without being consistent and persistent, we just can't succeed. We need all these attributions to get far in the business.
Okay. If you could step into my shoes, what question would you have asked yourself that I didn't ask?
Oh my gosh, I think you covered everything.
Thank you. I received that. Noemi, what is your why?
Yes. So my why is, I think mentioned that before, help others to find their voice. That's it.
Okay. What is one of your biggest failures or teachable moments, we'll call it, and what did you learn from that?
Be very careful when you pick your business partners, because you can burn. And I did. And yes, so you have to do your research when it comes to that. And just have to be careful.
Was that an iteration of what you're doing now, or was that something else?
No, it was completely different in my previous business. Okay. Yeah, it had nothing to do with podcast.
In your previous
life, that's the pre-COVID time, before after Christ. So it's
If you had the opportunity to sit down and have a 1-hour conversation with one woman, any woman in the world, who would it be and why?
Frida Kahlo, Mexican artist, Mexican painter, self-taught artist. I love her. I'm also a self-taught artist. And I just love the way she lived and how expressive and amazing, colorful life she had. And I would definitely have a chat with her.
If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
Have more self-confidence. And that's what Mom taught me all along the way. But I didn't listen to her first. But then I did. Later, then I figured out, it's important.
For sure. Lastly, if you were to deliver your last 30-second speech to the world, your corner of the world, your tribe, your people, what would that last 30 seconds sound like? What words of wisdom would you impart?
I'm all about gratitude. So I always talk about that. Probably people get bored with me by that. But I think it's really important, embrace gratitude every day and connect deeply with others and cherish the real beauty around you because when you do that and you live with purpose and you share your light and you leave the world just a little bit a better place than you found it. It's just so important. And even the smallest act of kindness can create ripples of impact. That's really important. And just you are enough, and that's it. You don't need.
I think we need a course on humankind, on how to be kind to other humans. This boggles my mind that we struggle with this so much that it's not hard to be kind to another human being. It doesn't cost you anything. Just be kind. That's all. It reciprocates. It ripples out, as you said, and it comes back to you.
Absolutely, 100 times. And that's what I learned from my Go-Giver community. And also give compliments and accept those compliments gracefully.
Yes.
It's so important. And don't be shy about those because you deserve them.
Yeah, that receiving and giving part is cyclical. You can't have one without the other. So I think you have to learn to receive in order to be a giver as well.
So true.
And that what you mentioned about receiving compliments, so many people just fluff them off. And they skip over them. But what they don't realize is that person is giving you a compliment. Accept it. That's, I think, I don't want to use the word rude, but it's breaking that cycle by not accepting that compliment. And you're hurting that person's feelings by not taking that compliment.
Exactly. And especially women, we can't take compliments. And it's almost like, you're great. No, I don't. I just bought this and 100 years ago. But we should learn that. But we haven't learned it in our lives.
No, it's an important lesson for sure. Noemi, where can people find you if they want to learn more about what you do, if they want to connect with you to chat? Can you please share with us?
Of course. Just visit our website, which is podcastconnections, plural.co, not com. So podcastconnections.co. Or you can find me on LinkedIn. And if you type my name in, Noemi Beres, and there's a tiny microphone sign next to my name, and that's me. And I'm happy to connect.
Beautiful. I will put all the information in the show notes as well when we release your episode. Noemi, thank you so much for taking and making the time to be here with me today, for sharing your journey about the work you do. I appreciate you. It's been an absolute beautiful conversation. I appreciate your time. I am honored and so happy to now have you as a member of the Empowerography community and to be able to call you a friend. Thank you for sharing today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure and my honor. Once again, my name is Brad Welsh, host of your Empowerography podcast. Today, my guest has been Noemi Beres. She is a seasoned entrepreneur and the co-owner of Podcast Connections. Thanks, Noemi. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends. You can find me at visuphoria.ca. Follow me on Instagram at Empowerography Podcast and on Facebook at Empowerography. Please join me next time for another inspirational story from yet another amazing woman.